Morning. A warm welcome to everyone who have joined this ManageEngine Mobile Device Manager Plus webinar. Uh, we appreciate your interest and time to join this session. Let's get started. So, a quick introduction about myself. I'm Arularam. I'm a product specialist with Mobile Device Manager Plus. So, mainly I focus on pre-sales, implementation, and consultation to our customers across the globe. This training is a 3-week session. Today, we are at the last series of the session. The first week, we have discussed about onboarding mobile devices, how to deploy some policies. The second week, we discussed about app deployment and what are the security policies you can enforce it on a device. And in today's session, we'll look about what features MDM can offer for managing Windows and MacBook. So if you have missed attending the previous session and if you would like to revisit them, we have the trainings hosted in our website, or you can request in the chat and we can share you the link where you can uh, review the previous recording. So before getting into the agenda, if you have any questions during the session, just feel free to post it in the chat. We have the expert panel sitting here to address your questions. So quickly getting into the agenda, we will see a general architecture of MDM, how MDM contacts the mobile device, what are the prerequisites required. Next, we will see what are the enrollment option we offer for onboarding your Windows machine as well as your Mac computers. So once your devices are enrolled, what are the basic configurations you can enforce on those endpoints? And once the configurations are applied, you need a business application. So how do you deploy the applications to your devices? So finally, we will see some real-time scenarios, what we have encountered, what we got from our customers, and we'll also tell you what solution we offered for the same. So this is the quick agenda. So getting into the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus, what are the operating systems that can be managed by MDM? So MDM can manage Apple TV, Apple smartphone, MacBooks, and when you go for Android, we can manage Android smartphones, tablet, and TVs. And when you go for Windows, we can manage Windows 10, Windows 11, Surface hubs. And we are one of the very few vendor who do support managing Chromebooks as well. And this MDM is available as a standalone product. We have it integrated with Endpoint Central to offer unified endpoint management as well. And if you are a reseller or a service provider, like you want to manage devices for different customers, we also have an MSP architecture available. All these three version of MDM is available both on cloud as well as on on-premise version. With regards to integration, this MDM can integrate with our in-house applications like Zoho Creator, Zoho CRM. We have an in-house ticketing tool called Service Desk Plus. We do have integrations with that. And we do offer third-party integrations like Spicework, Zendesk, and Jira. If you still like to integrate this product with other applications, we also have APIs available. You can use this API and integrate with third-party applications. A quick overview of the architecture. So you have this MDM server, which is hosted on cloud or maybe on your on-premise. So whenever you initiate a command from this server, maybe to install an app or maybe to send out a wipe command, this server will directly contact the Apple push notification service for Apple devices, Firebase cloud messaging system for Android, and Windows notification service for Windows devices. So this notification service are hosted by the respective OEMs, which is Apple, Google, and Microsoft. So this notification server will then wake up the enrolled device and it will tell you like there is an MDM waiting to push out a command. Just go and get it from the server. So this device, which knows the server, will directly go to the server and it will get the command and it will just process it. The secure gateway, what you see here, is an optional component applicable only for the on-premise edition. So consider you have the MDM server and you do not want to publicly expose the MDM server. So in that case, you can have a secure gateway configured and you can still have your MDM server within your closed intranet uh, in your organization. And what are the ports that is required for MDM? And this is completely for MDM on-premise. For device server communication, you need 9383 ports. For notification service, it is 443. For other services of Android and Apple, we have 5223, 5228, 5229, and 5230. We have some additional ports and URLs which you have to allow from your firewall, which can be found in the URL that you can see in the bottom of my presentation. Now, how does MDM actually manage your device? So for Android device, you have to install an MDM app. Only using the MDM app, the server can contact your device. Whereas if you go for Apple devices or Windows or Chromebooks, we leverage the native client which is inbuilt within the operating system. Now getting into the topic, how do we onboard Windows 10 and Windows 11 laptops? So let me take an example and give you or explain you how this works. Consider I'm an IT administrator working for a tourism company. We have offices across the globe and we have to onboard new user who are getting into the office in different location, and it is not possible for me to have IT or sysadmin in every location. So maybe we can have in 2 or 3 location, but for other regions we have to still provide device manage configuration. So how do we do that? So for Windows, we have an option called Azure Autopilot Enrollment. So what you have to do here is you need to have an Azure account. You have to integrate your Azure account with ManageEngine, MDM, and you have to make sure your devices are added into the Azure and just ask your user to just open the machine, type their Azure credentials, and the device gets enrolled into MDM. I will explain this in detail in upcoming slides. So let us see what are the prerequisites required here. If you have an on-premise edition of MDM, you should have a third-party SSL certificate uploaded. You should have your Azure administrator account ready, and you should also have any one of the license that is recommended by Microsoft to perform this autopilot enrollment. So you can see on my screen the list of license what is recommended to perform this autopilot enrollment. So once you have this ready, we'll see how do we integrate MDM with Azure and how to do the enrollment. So in case if you have a MDM cloud version, which I'm showing you on my screen, you have to just get into the enrollment tab in the MDM module. Just scroll down, you will see Azure Enrollment Autopilot. And here, when you go to this page, you'll have few URLs, the terms of use URL, the discovery URL. Make sure you copy this, log in to your Azure. Now it is renamed as Microsoft Entra. So I just get into that. And if I scroll towards the bottom on my left side, I have mobility, MDM, and MAM. I have to simply click on add application. And once you click on that, it will give you ME MDM or ManageEngine MDM. So here you have to simply copy the URL what you saw in MDM and just paste it. And on the top, you have the scope, whether all users in your organization can enroll a device using this method, or it is limited to few group of users. So you can define the scope and just save it. Similarly, if you have an on-premise edition of MDM, you have to do one step extra. So the terms of use URL, the discovery URL are pretty much the same, but you will have a URI, an app ID. You can still see this in your on-premise version of MDM. You have to simply copy that, paste it here, define the scope, and just save it. So once you have done that, when you ask your user to just boot up the machine, the device gets enrolled. But before that, there is one additional step what you have to do. How does the device gets recognized by Microsoft? For which you have to add your device into the business store. So how do you do that? If you're purchasing the device from an authorized vendor of Microsoft, you can ask them to give you the hardware ID of the device. It is just a CSV file which you can just upload here. In case if you do not have this file, or if you have not purchased the device from an authorized vendor of Microsoft, you can generate this CSV file. So there is a command available from Microsoft. If you want that command, just reach us in the chat or any mean of support. We can give you the documentation. You have to execute that command in your computer. That would generate this hardware ID CSV file. Just upload it here. So you can see one machine which is added here. So once your machine is added, then you have to create a deployment policy. So I'm just creating a sample policy. So when you boot up your Windows for the first time out of the box, whether you should script configuring Cortana, OneDrive, OEM registration, whether you want your users to disable creating local user account. So you can configure this, just save this and apply this deployment policy to your computer. Now, when the user opens their laptop for the first time, it will prompt them for their Azure credentials. So they have to type their Azure username, password. Once that is done, the device will directly go to Azure. Azure will then validate whether they have any one of the license that is recommended by Microsoft. If yes, then it will see what app is assigned in Azure and where it is redirecting the device. So seeing this URL, the device will automatically hit Manage Engine and the device gets enrolled into the solution. So this is autopilot enrollment. So do we have similar options for Mac computers? Yes, we do have, and it is called Apple Business Manager. So a quick workflow. So you have to integrate your Apple Business Manager with MDM, and your devices should be in ABM. Just ask your user to power up the device fresh out of the box. The device gets activated and gets enrolled into MDM. So I'll give you the steps one by one. So again, I'll get into the MDM. I'll go to the enrollment. Before managing any Apple device in MDM, there is a prerequisite called an APN certificate. So without this certificate, you cannot manage any Apple device in MDM. So make sure to create the certificate. And as a best practice, we would recommend you to create an Apple ID in a generic email ID, something like administrator at your domain name.com or mdmadmin at your domain name.com. The reason is whenever you're enrolling your device, this certificate having a unique serial number will get installed on your device. And only using this certificate, MDM can contact your device. As you can see, this certificate is valid for only 1 year. So you will also get an email notification prior to 90 days of the certificate expiry, seeing which you have to renew the same certificate. In case if you fail to renew the certificate, or if you're not able to retrieve the same certificate, all your Apple device will stop communicating. So always, as a best practice, use a generic Apple ID to create this APN certificate. So once you have this APN certificate ready, you can go to the Apple enrollment ABM/ASM. I'll go to servers. I have added one already, but I'll show you how to add a new one. You have to just download a PEM token from ManageEngine, get into the Apple Business Manager. So let me quickly log into that. And the URL for Apple Business Manager is business.apple.com. If you do not have one account, you can simply sign up for the account. It is completely free of cost. So once you have this Apple Business Manager account ready, I go to preferences on my left side, and I have to click on add server. So once I click on add server, I will have option to download the file, uh, which I've downloaded from MDM, and I can upload it here. You can give a name and just save it. Once you're done, it will again generate a new token. You have to download this token, get into ManageEngine, upload it, and save it. And again, this token is also valid for 1 year. Just make sure to add your group email ID. So once the token is about to expire, you will get a notification email seeing which you can renew the token. So once you have the server integrated, you have to purchase the device from an authorized reseller of Apple. Or if you have some existing devices which is not purchased, we do have other options like Apple Configurator, using which you can add your existing devices to ABM, and they will be listed here. So you can see all your Apple devices here. You have to simply click on one device and make sure you assign this device to ManageEngine. So once you have assigned it to the token, you ask your user to just reset the device. When the device boots up, you have the Apple logo, you have the option to connect to a Wi-Fi. So once you connect to the Wi-Fi, the device goes to Apple server. Apple will validate the serial number, and once it is validated, it will see to which token the device is assigned. It is with ManageEngine, so the device redirects to ManageEngine, and it gets automatically enrolled into the solution. And we also have some additional customization here. So when you boot up your device for the first time, you have a lot of options like to sign into an Apple ID, configure payments, configure passcode, and configure App Store. So if you do not want to show this option, you can simply uncheck this. And for Mac, you can by default create a local administrator account. This can be helpful if a user is reporting an issue. You can just get into the machine as admin and you can do a troubleshooting. And you can also allow your user to create an account and make sure that is a standard account, not the administrator account. So you have this small automation as well. This is the way how do you onboard your Mac computers into MDM. We have just added a screenshot of what I have explained now with the product. Now I have onboarded my devices, Mac and Windows, into the product. How do I deploy configurations? As I told, we have offices across the globe. If a new user is joining my organization, they have to connect to the Wi-Fi. And it is very difficult for me to see where the user is, in what location they're onboarding, what Wi-Fi there, and what is the password there. So it is very difficult to share those things. So how do I automate the process? So I'm just getting into the device management section, and I have something called profiles. You can create a profile for Windows, give a policy name, maybe like Wi-Fi or whatever I need, or restriction policy. Just giving a name and continue. So here I can default enforce a user to set a compliant password. Maybe it is not a domain joined computer. I want to enforce them with a compliant password of minimum 6-digit or 7-digit. I can create a compliance here, and we have this Wi-Fi option available. So you can give your Wi-Fi SSID, what is the security of the network, the password, and just save, and you can push it to your device. So whenever the device is within the range of this Wi-Fi network, it would auto connect to the Wi-Fi network. Additionally, my users are using VPN. So if I'm using any one of this VPN type, maybe like F5 access, I can give the VPN server URL or the IP address, how I'm authenticating with the VPN server, and just push this configuration. So whenever my user opens this VPN app, the server details are pre-configured. They have to just type their password and establish the VPN communication. And maybe if my users are connecting to any Wi-Fi or their email server using an additional certificate-based authentication. So you can still upload your certificate and deploy it to your devices. And in case if you're having a user-based certificate, like every user is having a unique certificate, we do support integrating a skip server. You can integrate that and push this setting to your device. So your device then reaches the skip server where it authenticates with their username, and it provides a unique user-based certificate to the devices as well. And maybe you have a shift employee, like the same computer is being used by another person at a different time, like a shared computer. You can create a configuration here. So whether you want to allow only guest logins or domain logins, what should happen if they log out, like should we delete the data in the machine or not, and what is the size, what are the policies you want to enforce. So you can create that and you can deploy it onto the machines. And The next is we also see few Windows devices which are being used in shops in a kiosk mode. So how do we lock down those machines? So here we have something called a kiosk policy where you can simply lock down your machine in a single app mode, just one app, or in a multi-app mode where you can use combination of business store app as well as exe apps. So you can give a path name, and whether you want to show the taskbar or not, whether you want to show file explorer or not, just save it and just deploy it onto the machine, and your device will be locked down like what you see in my screen with the apps whatever you allow. So this is kiosk mode. I've seen few configurations for Windows. What about for Mac machines? So it is in a very similar way. I go to the device management section, I go to the profiles and create profile. This is for a Mac computer. So I'm just creating a policy and just click on continue. So again, for a Mac, you can enforce a password compliance, and we have Wi-Fi. You can give your Wi-Fi SSID password. Just you can make sure the device is getting connected. We have the VPN, which is very similar for Windows. We have one additional option called Parap VPN. So maybe you want the VPN to get connected for a specific app. So you can give the app name and whether the VPN has to be automatically turned on whenever a user is trying to launch the app, and what type of VPN you have, and the VPN server URL and the port address. So once you configure and deploy it, whenever they open the apps, maybe your corporate apps, the VPN gets established automatically. So this way, the communication is secure between the app and the app server. The next one is firewall. So whether your device should get connected or should it get an incoming or outgoing request from external URLs. So you can configure the firewall here as well. So whether they have to allow the incoming request or block it, it should be for Apple signed apps or built-in apps. And what are the apps that should be allowed to get the incoming request? So you can configure this and deploy to your devices. And if you have printers available in your office, you can give the printer details here. This is called AirPrint in Mac. So your user can initiate a print via Wi-Fi to the printer. And certificates are pretty much the same what we seen for Windows. And we do have triple PC privacy preference control. So maybe you have a meeting application or maybe any third party apps, and this app would require some permission to access the data. Maybe if you have meetings, it might require access to your calendar, maybe your full disk. So you can automate the process of granting the permission to the app. So we have uh, this option like where you have to give the app identifier in what path it is installed, and you have to select the permission. Maybe if it is calendar, I want to allow it. Maybe if it is photos, I want to restrict it. So you can create the policy and you can just enforce it on the device. The user will not be prompted to accept or deny the permission. It will be configured as per the policy. The next one is the custom configuration. So maybe you see some policy which is not available here in the product UI, but if Apple is supporting, you can directly reach us on the support. We will be helping you to create this configuration and deploying it to the Mac. So that is via the custom configuration. What if the device what I have gets lost? So being a Mac machine, the user can take it to the home. These devices are very handy. But what if the device gets lost? So the person who took the device obviously cannot log in because they'll not know the login details, but they can very well remove the hard drive, connect it to a different machine and retrieve your corporate data. So how do we secure that? So we have an option called file vault encryption. It's available here. Moment. So you can enable a file vault encryption in your device, and those key will be automatically stored in MDM. So we have three type of encryption mechanism. One, a personal recovery key. The second one is institutional, and the third one is a combination of personal and institutional. The personal recovery key is like every Mac will have a unique decryption key. Institutional recovery key is based on a certificate you're creating and the combination of personal and recovery. So these key will be stored in the product once the encryption is completed. So, and you can retrieve this key in the product if you go to the inventory tab, and if you go to MacBook, you will have a page where you can retrieve the key using which you can decrypt the machine, decrypt the drive. So in case if someone is trying to remove the hard drive, insert it on a different machine, they could not access the data because the disk is encrypted. Now that we have enforced few policies, what about apps? We need some apps for a business to run. So how do we deploy those apps to your devices? So for Apple devices, if you have an Apple Business Manager, you can deploy your App Store apps silently to those devices. So let me show you how this works. So I will again get into the Apple Business Manager, and I have something called apps and books. So when you get into this page for the first time, you'll have option to accept the terms and use. So once you accept it, this will list out all the apps that is available in the App Store. So it is just taking some more time. So you can see all the apps. You can do a search of those apps. So when you do a search of those apps, you have to just select the location token, how much license you want. Maybe if you want to distribute this application to 10 devices, you need 10 license. Make sure this app is compatible for Mac. I will show you how you can find that. So once you have the required quantity purchased, you have to make sure the token is integrated with ManageEngine, for which again in Apple Business Manager, you have to go to payments and billing, and you will have one token that is available here. It is called app token. You can simply download the token, which you can see on the right bottom corner. Just download the token and log into the MDM, go to device management, and you have app repository. So if you go to the app repository, you'll have an option called Apple App Management. You have to just click on configure apps for business and just upload the token. And once you upload the token, whatever apps you have purchased under that token will be automatically synced here into the solution. And once it is synced, you can see the app, and you can also see the supported devices, whether it is for iPad, Apple TV, or Mac. So make sure you have Mac available here, which confirm the app is compatible for Mac. So once it is done, and once you associate this app to a group of device, these apps can be silently installed without any user intervention and without any Apple ID requirement in the device. What about for Windows devices? So for Windows devices, in Windows 10, there is a Microsoft Business Store available. So if you have an Azure account, you can just sign in with your Azure account. And in your Microsoft Business Store, you will have all the apps. So you can just purchase the apps here. And those apps will be automatically synced here, and you can deploy this app silently to your Windows machines. But Microsoft has notified that they are going to deprecate this business store, and we are yet to get an update on what is the path going forward. So when we get that, we'll include the same in our product as well. So how do I distribute some document? As I told, like since we are in a tourism business, pricing really matters, because when there is a holiday season, we have to give a competitive pricing. So this way I can get a lot of customers. So how do I securely share some documents to my users? So we have a functionality called content management. So again, I get into the device management, and if I scroll down a little bit, I see like content management option available. Here, I can just upload the document, whatever I need, and I can simply share this document to the devices. So once I share this, in Windows device, there is an MDM application available. If you open that application, you can see what are all the apps that you have pushed from the MDM. And you can see the list. You can see, you can read the document, and what are the you can also categorize it. This document, generally what you push from MDM is just read only. User will not be able to do a copy paste or maybe edit it. It is just simply read only format. So let me take some real time scenario and I will explain what solutions we have offered. Use Active Directory in your organization. Is it possible to remotely add Mac devices to the AD? Yes, this is possible via a policy. So again, I go to the device management, I go to the policy, and I'm just using the same policy what we created in the session. And here we have one policy called AD asset binding. So if you have an on-premise Active Directory, just give your Active Directory machine's host name, username, password, the OU path, whether it is a mobile network or a mobile account or a network account. The difference is when you have a mobile account, the device need not be online or reachable to Active Directory every time when a user is logging into the machine. However, if you have it as network, the user has to be connected to the Active Directory network every time when they try to log into the machine. So you can configure this and deploy this, and your Mac devices will be binded to the Active Directory, and user can log in with their Active Directory credentials. And is it possible to locate Windows laptop and MacBook using MDM? Yes, we do have location tracking available for Mac and Windows. And for Windows, we have option to enable location tracking always on, so user cannot disable it. For Mac devices, there is one additional prerequisite, like we have an MDM app. So make sure you select this option, automatically distribute the MDM app to devices. Make sure to enable this. So whenever your Mac is enrolled into MDM, uh, MDM app will be installed. Just make sure to give the location permission to the MDM app, and you can track the device location here in MDM. So maybe I will show you how that looks like. So, okay, so this is one Windows machine you can see where you can actually track it. I will just get into the device and show you how that looks like. So this is the machine, and if you go to geo tracking, you can see the location of the device. When it was last located, what is the path? You can see that. What if the device gets lost? Again, we have options to do wipe. So you can do a full factory reset of the device if you're not able to retrieve it. So we have that option as well. Can we decide the data that is fetched and displayed by MDM for management? Okay, so this is one common question we generally get. Like you're handing out the device to the user, and user might be concerned what data the MDM is collecting from my device. So to have the end user informed, we have options uh, to show them what details the MDM collects from their device. If you go to the admin tab in MDM, and if you go to device privacy, you will have list of data that is being collected from the device. So you can see IMEI number, MAC address, what are the app installed, what is the location. So you can see those data. And if you do not want to collect any of this data, you can go to the individual settings and select do not collect. If you do not want to collect any of this data, just select do not collect and save it. These data will not be collected from your device, and the same can be shown in the MDM app in your device. So if the user launches the MDM app in the device, they can see whether IMEI is being collected and displayed, serial number is being collected and displayed. So you can see this data in the device. How do I push app updates to devices at a certain date and time? Is it possible using MDM? Okay. So some organizations follow an update process at a specific date and time, maybe on weekends, because they don't want to affect their production during the weekdays. So how do we automate the process? So we have something called app update policy. So here I have to create a policy and define that. So I can give a name like update window for this policy, and whether this update policy is applicable for all the apps that I've distributed from MDM, only for the store apps, which is Windows Business Store or probably the Apple Business Manager, or only for business critical apps, where I can pick few apps. Only for that, this update cycle will be followed. So once this criteria is selected, whether the update should be approved automatically once it is deducted from the stores, or it has to be approved by the admin. To post this approval, whether the update has to be immediately pushed to the device or you have a scheduled window. The scheduled window, like I want this update to happen only on Saturday and Sunday at a specific time. You can configure the scheduler and you can just associate the scheduler to one device or group of device. And regarding the automation, what I've told, so the policies, apps, and this app update policy and the documents what you are creating, just make sure you configure this and make sure you assign it to a group. So you can just simply create a group for your HR department, sales, marketing, whatever departments you want. Just create a group and you can associate those policies, apps, and document. So whenever a device is enrolled, just add the device to the respective groups, and those policies, apps get automatically deployed on those devices. That's it for today's session. Rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. And if you still have any questions, just feel free to post it in the chat. We still have our technicians available to address your questions. And spread a word on social media platforms like hashtag ManageEngine, /ManageEngine. And you can follow us on LinkedIn. You have this QR on my screen. You can simply scan it and you can follow us on LinkedIn for any new updates or where we are hosting some events across the globe. You have a good day and take care.